Avika. Welcome to the podcast. Before we get started, I want to give a quick brief on what this podcast is about. The podcast is focused on sharing women's experiences in different fields. The idea came to me when I looked around me and I saw women from different backgrounds, and all of them shared some kind of experiences which are very specific to women, which women face in their day-to-day life, and the idea is to connect with common girls and women out there and not make it too superficial or very exclusive content. So we're going to be candid
Okay,
and we're going to share our experiences and how we dealt with it.
lovely. Looking forward to it.
Amazing. Avika, do you want to share your journey till now, like what you have done and why you're here?
Great. So, I know Jagriti because she's my one of my closest friends at Columbia. But before Columbia, I did a bunch of things. And I think it would be unfair if I don't bring up tennis because tennis has been, I think, one of the toughest things I've done, and it's one of the still the most fruitful things I've done in life. So I was a professional tennis player for 3 years. I started my career as that. I had the time of my life, traveled the world, met the best of people, and got my world ranking before I decided to pivot to the corporate world, where I worked for this fintech startup in Delhi. Again, great experience for me. I served as a chief of staff. Are we taking names? I worked for BharatPay, which is a fintech startup and does payments in India. And then after BharatPay, I was with Bessemer Venture Partners, which is a VC fund in India, where I looked at more like SaaS in India, and SMB SaaS to be specific. And then, yeah, that brings me to Columbia, where I am again very happy to meet Jagriti.
Thank you so much, Avika. So we're going to start with
People will think I'm in love with you.
which is okay.
which is okay, which is also okay.
Yes, I love you too. Just for the validation, so that you don't feel alone. So starting from the bottom, like your tennis career is something that has really fascinated me, to be honest. I would love to know, growing up in Delhi, being a Haryana girl, and what made you get into a career in sports.
Very interesting. Actually, I come from a family which is very academically inclined. And I think, like most sort of middle class, upper middle class parents, they're very dedicated and um, on making like focusing on the kids' education. But I, from the beginning, or as far as I can remember, was very sporty. Like I loved jumping around, picking a new sport, playing with ball. Even though I had my own set of Barbie dolls, but I was always on the sporty side. Uh, but I think mostly nobody knew how to channelize my energy. Like I would just pick up a bike or skate. It's only when I moved to a bigger city like Delhi. So I was born in Dehradun and then I moved to Delhi. Um, that's when I found tennis, and that was a way for me to then channelize all this love for sports that I have and really put in focused effort into something that one I enjoyed doing, and it also led me somewhere. So I think that's how tennis came into my life. I don't think if I hadn't moved to a bigger city, I would have discovered tennis. So a lot of things came into being while I was always sporty, but finding a sport was a different um, journey.
And your point of moving to bigger cities, I think that's a big challenge that India faces, which is being in a very small town or small place, you might not get the right opportunity. Maybe people have great hidden talents, but they never get the opportunity. People in, like, especially parents in India, are so pushy about academics, and it's very difficult for them to take that risk and put their kid out there and try something different. So that's amazing that you took that risk, or your parents took that risk for you to go ahead and pursue a career in sports, which is amazing. But tell me this, sports for women in general is a less sought out thing. Like it's not like very usual or a common thing to see that women pursue careers in sports. Very difficult because or the environment that India has for a really long time catered to, which is men in sports, may it be cricket or any other sports that we see. It's always about men in sports. So, what was the challenge? What were the challenges that you faced as a woman in India playing sports?
Yeah, I think very interesting. I think multifold, and I'm just trying to simplify it, and then maybe I would talk more specifically. Um, why India struggles with sport. I mean, just looking at some stats, um, and again, I'm going the umbrella view, but if you look at the Olympic rankings, the medal tally rankings, there's mostly in order of GDPs of most countries. But there's one outlier, no points for guessing, that's India. So India has very high GDP or growth rate, and still, and I think if we were to say that talent is equally distributed in the world, which I would like to believe, then India has the most number of people. So by design, we should have the most talent. So if we have the most talent and our country is growing and booming, then what are we doing so wrong that we can't get athletes at the top level? It's very often the only girl on a tennis court or in the gym. And then and then also in a city like Delhi or traveling for tournaments within India, I always needed to be careful of how I'm dressed. In tennis, I used to wear my tennis shorts and play because they're comfortable. But the moment I would step out, I'd pull on my track pants to wear over them. I'd always be careful of the time. I'll always be careful of the people around me. Which mostly would be men. And while I trusted the people that I sort of met every day and all of that, but the challenges that you face as a girl, of course, the every woman faces this, but just gets enhanced. Also, you're just always surrounded by men. Women tennis don't have, so women have not, at least the way we're wired, have maybe not figured out how to be competitive and friendly at the same time. So either if you trying to beat the other person on the other side of the court, you'll shake hands at the end of the match, but then you'll not be friends. And this is a problem I faced as well. So if I played a close friend and I beat her, we would not talk for 2 days. And I hated doing that. And I don't know why it happened, while we knew that somebody has to win that day. So I think women, so many other problems. It's not just how men viewed us, but within amongst women, we had extremely difficult to deal with periods. Most coaches are men, so you have to get comfortable and build that bond with your coaches, and then get them and tell them about your menstruation cycles. Tell them that today I can't practice or today I can't lift as hard, and sometimes you can't help it. You just have a match day on the day that you get your periods. So how do you deal with that? How does your team best prepare you? How do you dress for that, right? I think all my wardrobe, and I'm guilty of that, by design has all black athletic clothes, because I just can't get into the mind space of getting a spot while in the middle of the match and then running to the washroom. It's not something that I like doing. I'd want to think about while I'm competing. So there's just so many tiny issues that as a woman you just learn to deal with, and with time they become a part of you. Bring up a very small example. I was when I initially picked up tennis, I'd wear shorts. That's what you're taught to wear, or skirts, tennis skirts too. And then I would struggle. So tennis skirts have pockets inside, and that's why you keep the ball. It's very normal. The pockets are built like that. That's why you have to keep the ball. Uh, I struggle to put the ball in the pocket because somehow to me that concept seemed weird or foreign, or I've never done such a thing. Again, same thoughts. Is it? Uh, I hope I'm not looking weird, or I'm not exciting men around me if I do this, or how am I getting looked at? Am I being? Will they see me differently if I do this? Should I do this quickly? Should I not? And for the longest, I would place the ball on the ground, which is a horrible thing. Don't ever do that. You'll roll over your ankle or you'll get hurt. Um, and I did this for a few days. And then there was one female coach that we had, and she walked up to me and she's like, "What are you doing? See, this is a ball. This is how you do it. It's normal. Go ahead and do it." And that sort of encouraged me to then go ahead. I think way. And I'm so grateful that you're doing this, by the way, because at least even if there's one young girl who watches this and feels like it's okay to put that ball in the pocket, I think this is a win.
That's worth it, yeah. I'm sure. Like, talk about, like, you said you traveled a lot across different parts of the country, and we all know that the sports system in India does not provide the best of the facilities. But like as a woman, did you feel safe like traveling, and like how were the conditions? Were they hygienic? Especially because women have to take extra care of their hygiene. So how did you feel about those things? Like, were you comfortable, or you were at the edge?
I was not comfortable, but I also did not have an option. Um, a lot of places, in fact, in India, there were smaller places where you'd often have to travel by maybe a train. There's just not a flight in that city. Or you've gone to play a national tournament. For example, I went to play a national tournament, which was in this hostel with horrible conditions, with bed bugs, and the washrooms were communal and they were not clean. And these are all national level athletes who've played many, many years and actually represented India. And we were forced to stay in such conditions, and there was just no option. Like where there is nothing else that you can do. And in fact, one of the teams actually walked out saying we don't want to play the tournament. But but again, it's just hard. And but as an athlete, you build to sort of be okay in tough situations. I think that comes with the sport. But let's also talk about how we don't have um, physios or coaches or trainers who are women.
Women.
So unless you build your comfort of being with a man and being completely open, like I said, every month I go 5 days, I go through my periods. My trainer needs to know that today I'm going to be different, feel different. I'm not going to work out. In fact, I remember very clearly or very often that this would happen. I don't know if men are oblivious or they understand, but every month around the same time, I would train with a bunch of boys. But for those 5 days, I'd have a different workout than the boys. I don't know if they were smart enough to figure it out. We were also young and early teens, so it wasn't so open. Uh, but but yeah, I think I had to, and I tell you, I had those awkward conversations with my trainer saying not today. But again, sometimes I had to push my limits because I'm like, what if this happens on a match day? I can't say
Yeah.
not today. So I think somewhere finding that balance of pushing versus, and you have to answer these questions for yourself because while they're amazing trainers, they're not women. They can't guide you on with their personal experience. Find myself a roommate, talk to people beforehand,
Yeah.
make sure I make arrangements. I could only stay in some hotels, try to stay as close as possible. Request for matches not late night. If it was a late night, I would ask my friends on the tennis circuit to drop me home. In fact, some of them would just do it by themselves because we'd become friends. But a lot of these things that I had to take care of, uh, because I think it was just contrary to one another. While you're trying to be confident and build this sense of self, it you cannot compromise on safety.
You have to be careful.
You have to be careful. Uh,
Because so many times when India is playing in Asian Games or Olympics, and people would have constant complaints. Viewers will have complained. India is not doing well. What is this? Why are they not performing? Why don't we have medals? It's all very easy to sit back comfortably on couch watching these sports and comment and say you're not doing well. But people need to understand how much the country is actually investing in sports and sports people, how much respect they're getting, and what are the conditions of women, why they're not more women going to Olympic sports. I'm sure there are like so many talented people out there in India, and that's what concerns me, right? Like, we all know that you moved from India to play tennis professionally in the US, and I want to kind of compare your experience here because I also want to give them a relative picture on how you felt as a women athlete in India versus how you felt being an athlete in the US.
Yeah, I think I was just 17 when I moved to play college tennis in the US. Um, and I don't know if for the viewers, for context, US has this one NCAA college when I was 17. So I moved countries, and if I can be honest, it was a cultural
Sure.
shock is actually not the word I was going for, but shock, but in a pleasant way. I
Okay.
think my life changed. Um, if I can be honest, I think in India, while I played, but oftentimes it felt like it was me and my family sort of against the world. I had to go back, manage my academics by myself. I had to people would ask me again, they'd say, oh, you become so tan, you become so dark, which in our country is looked at not so fondly. Or they'd ask me why I'm investing so much time. I'm sure my parents got these questions as well, and they would so a lot of times just the way it was built, like after fighting my battles all day, I would have to also know that the society wants me to not behave. They're not happy that I am. This is what I'm doing. But I think the moment I stepped up and I moved countries and I came here, I was just amazed because from the get go, people called me. I think we were termed student athletes, and student athletes were given utmost respect in college because they were doing two jobs. They were full time students and full time athletes. Um, and everybody looked at you like you are some star. And believe it or not, Jagati, that changed my world. As somebody who growing up was not so confident, discovered a sport that helped her build her confidence, build self awareness around who she is. I think I realized just this confidence of people looking at me like I am some star did wonders for me. For you. So if you're going for a tournament, they will talk to your professors, and professors will work with you to either give you extra time or accommodate you elsewhere. And these may seem like small things, but these were life changing for me.
Yeah.
Because I feel these small things were absolutely missing in India. I did not get the love for being an athlete, and I also had to just manage my own things. I remember in my boards, I was just struggling getting tuitions and working, balancing my tennis while I was full time recruiting for a college in the US. I had to still manage my boards and make sure I get like I said, there's certain kind of respect that is the percentage that you get in your
Yeah,
board
yeah.
exams
Academics,
will always stick with you.
India is all like India. This Indians take too much pride on their academics. I should be the one saying it because I have always been academically inclined, but I can get
And you
very.
did well, right? You got into the top college, you got into SRCC, so you know, in fact, you played this game and you won. I was just playing, I feel like 3 4 different games all at once, and I don't know what was I
The
sort of working
right
towards,
way.
what
Yeah.
was a win for me. But I think in the moment I came to college tennis, it worked wonders for me, like it's normal to do.
We talked a lot about tennis, sports, your experiences, but what made you move, like leave tennis behind and become a corporate baddie?
Sure, I really became a baddie. Sure. Uh, Jax, it actually broke my heart. Let me start there. I'd given so many years playing a sport, and I had many opportunities while I was playing the sport to leave it behind, move on. You know, sort of in college, I could have gone to a top college in India and blah blah blah, or like coming out of a US college, leave it behind. I had a degree in my hand, go work on Wall Street. But every time I chose to pick the sport, and when I finally decided to move away from the game, it was heartbreaking. It was, yeah, I think that was my first heartbreak. It hurt, and I cried for days. But I think I knew that it was not fulfilling in terms of, or not, it was not converging with my idea of who I want to be in the future. That was a large piece. One of the biggest piece was I wanted to be financially independent. Sport in India in general, and tennis in general, otherwise also as a sport, um, the way there's not a lot of money. Especially in India, you don't have sponsorships, blah blah blah. Infrastructure is missing, so you need to. A lot of it comes from your internal push or your family or your circle then, who want the people who want to support you. But in general, also tennis is a tough sport. Only the top 100 in the world make money. Everybody else who's playing really doesn't. And with the kind of, while there are a lot of people who supported me, I don't want to sound ungrateful, extremely grateful for the people who've supported me, backed me, all these years would not have been possible without them. It was still a long way for me. It still a lot of times felt like a battle between me, my family, and my loved ones and my supporters versus the world.
Highlight here is again, beyond this infrastructural issues in India for sports people, People need to understand there's very less money for anyone who is doing any, like, who is playing any sports beyond cricket, and like a couple more sports maybe. And then within cricket also, I know so many people
Men's
who are
cricket.
men's cricket, by the way, men's cricket, who are, there's only like 100 or people who will go for Ranji or then IPL, and then Indian cricket team, and then rest are all like behind, right? And choosing a career in sports is very, very difficult for anyone, because not everyone has that kind of resources. The money that it needs to be funded with your sports journey needs you to put a lot of money in the process. You'll not be earning enough money to sustain yourself for long, and that's why we don't have enough people. And that's another struggle I want to highlight, not just for women, for everyone, every sports person in India especially, that they're not getting paid. And someone who's putting all their life into a sport, and their family is online, their finances are online, it might be very difficult to continue playing. So on your experience, I want to just like share that fact also. Like, people need to understand, this is a challenge with so many sports people out there. And someone needs to, maybe you can become a sponsor when you earn a lot of money for some
I
kid.
would, in fact, absolutely love for. In fact, believe it or not, I was a major in college. I was a finance major, and my senior thesis in undergrad was how sort of learnings from American sporting culture that can help. So pieces from American sporting culture that can help India
Hmm.
shine. I don't know how I got an A in that class. How is it related to finance? Nobody knows, but I think they just saw the sheer love for me on what I was talking about and passionately talking about. And like I said, it's a dream that is, I hope one day I can contribute towards, because I've lived it and I see the struggle.
Hmm.
Um, and even if I can, while everybody, India has its, so many people fight their battles and come on top. But then if you look at those athletes, it's their own respective battles.
Hmm.
The system hasn't made an athlete. Nobody will come out and say, "Oh, I'm a systems athlete," or like everybody's worked around me to build an athlete. Everybody's worked and come on top with their own struggles. And I think that's something that we could change.
Yeah, I completely agree. And there are not enough sports people right now, successful sports people in the country. But whoever is there, I would love for those people to kind of come back and revisit where they came from and kind of give back. Maybe coach a kid who is passionate about cricket or whatever sport they're playing, and that could really make a difference, I feel. Okay, it was great knowing your experiences, Avika. What I would love, as closing remarks, and like just like a couple of lines for all the women athlete out there. What do you want to share? Like, what do you think would be helpful for those young girls or women in sports?
Yeah, I would actually say, don't worry so much about these cultural or barriers that are sort of imposed on you. Um, I know that whoever I am today, of course, careers and achievements and accomplishments, they'll go on for the rest of your career. But who I am internally as a person has been shaped so much by tennis or the sport that I played. Um, and my sort of awareness of self. So I think sport has played a larger role in my life than just things that go in your resume. I'm extremely proud of those accomplishments that are on my resume, but I'm even more proud of who I am as a person and my ability to back myself when things go wrong. And I think that is what sports can teach you. I would
True. Thank you so much, Avika. That was, I think that was very inspiring and amazing, and I hope we do inspire maybe like a couple of people out there.
I hope more than a couple. And I hope to see more episodes of this podcast.
Okay.
Um, I think she's amazing.